Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another discussion video, and today we will be covering this post again because we have received some new dev replies, very extensive ones at that. I think there's one, yeah, right over here as well. So this is the forum thread that talks about increasing the influence cost of proposals. And what this means is whenever you vote on something, right? Let's say vote for declaring wars, you can see right over here. Currently, the choices you can pick is 10, 40, and 100. And with these choices, it really never really makes a difference. It's kind of a waste of influence, and it's always better to abstain. And you would never really make a change when it comes to the percentages because all the AI lords kind of vote together most of the time, almost all the time. And the dev has pretty much suggested, hey, we can increase it to 20, 60, and 180, or 30, 75, and 200. What this will do is it will make it so lords will pretty much vote less, and when they do vote, it will be kind of the lower amount. And then if you really want to change the vote or really kind of sway it in a direction, you can choose the higher amount, and it will have a lot more power than the current higher amount of 100. So I thought, let's try it out. Let's see what let's see what happens. I never was really against it or for it. It was just, I think it might be a good idea. I think it might really help. It depends. We'll see how the influence goes because, like I said before, for policies that used to give us a lot of influence, they've been nerfed severely, and it's very hard to get influence. Obviously, over time, it will stack up, but if you really want to run it up for, like, let's say, votes and stuff, it's going to be hard to really, kind of maintain this unless there's going to be other ways to get influence. But I think it is definitely a good idea, and it could make the voting system, a little bit better than it currently is because obviously most of the times you will probably abstain. So, yeah. And we talked about, what was talked about over here? He talked about kind of like how the ratios worked and all of that. But today, what we have is, well, not today, but some stuff was today. We have 3 replies. So without further ado, let's get right to it. I'm going to link it down below, and let's do it. So first we have a player, and then we have a dev reply. So the player goes, this is a step in the right direction, but it's only a solution for the first few hundred days or so. By day 1000, it will still not matter because of all the passive influence policies. They give far too much to vassal clans. I don't think so. Maybe. If we're talking about the long run, yes, influence does stack up in the long run. But it is hard to really get like your foot in the door. But once it's there, you usually never run out. So I kind of get what he's saying. I feel your solution is a bit more on the side of treating the symptoms, not the disease per se. I could be wrong, but I believe the core of the issue is everyone simply has way too much influence. Again, I think over time, yes. At the beginning, not really. So here's what I believe needs to be done to avoid these player and AI clans from amassing too much influence. Okay, let's see what he has to say. So first, remove or change all passive influence granting policies for vassals. Nerf Sacred Majesty to 1 influence per day. In the end, the liege should almost always have most influence unless they are entirely inept. Do I agree with that? Here's the thing: if you remove all the passive influence gain, then pretty much the only way to really gain influence would be to just fight and fight and fight and fight, and I don't know if that's exactly what every single person who's playing wants. I think that it's good to always have passive ways to get stuff and also active ways to get stuff. It's good to have that difference, but I don't know how people would feel about it. And then he states, change influence gains to a flat rate instead of a scaled. Who cares how many looters you killed with X amount of men? All we care about is how many of... Okay. No, I don't agree with that. No, I do not agree. Look, I'm going to keep it a stack with you. I don't know if I agree with that. A flat rate for influence. So if I beat a battle where I'm 100 versus 1, and then if I beat a battle where I'm 100 versus 1600, I should get the same amount of influence. That is not, no, I don't believe that. I disagree with that. Then we have influence degradation, similar to Warband's Renown degradation. In short, amass up to around 1K, but after that you start hitting a steeper and steeper trend line and diminishing returns. No, look, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. If they were to do all three of these, influence would be the hardest thing in the world to get. I think no. I think if you want this, I agree with this right over here. I think renown and influence, once you get to a certain amount, it starts, you know, kind of decaying over time. I think that's fine. But if you want to have a decay, you can't get rid of the passive income as well, because then it's just like you'll never get past 1,000. It'll never get there, and I think you should be able to get there. You know what I mean? I think it should be harder, but at the same time, I think you still should be able to. So here's what I agree with. I agree with the decay. I definitely do not agree with the flat rate. And this right over here, maybe nerf it a little bit more, but at this point, it's already nerfed so hard. I think, you know, I think the decay makes the best sense, in my opinion. So Dev Response says, yes, you're right. Currently, there's an influence inflation in game, and this problem has connection to policies, as you stated. And then he states, policies are not the only reason, of course. You know, the policy system is broken currently, and kingdoms are having more and more policies as time passes. Yes, they keep adding policies. They do not remove existing policies at any time, and most of the policies are unbalanced, and some are giving too much influence. Okay. And then he states, why you suggested changing influence to flat rate? Yes, it is more logical, but it does not solve any of the existing problems, isn't it? Or am I missing something? You're not missing something. I don't think for game design it'll be a good thing to actually do, because if you're trying to then gain influence, then you would just always hunt down very, very small parties, and it'll be kind of broken in a way, because then it'll be just, how can I explain this? If I get the same influence from fighting one person and fighting 300 people, and I'm only looking to gain more influence so I have more voting power, then I'm just going to keep attacking the one person, and I'm always going to have a guaranteed influence amount, because I'm never going to be able to take a risk for higher influence. So it's always just going to be guaranteed, and therefore it's going to be kind of broken. So there it is. And then Dev states, yes, I also disagree. I also agree. We should have influence degradation. Is degradation the same thing as decay? Degradation. Hold on, man. That's the same thing as decay, right? It sounds like it. Or so it's kind of like the same thing, right? In a way. Yeah, looks like it. Oh, okay. Okay, so he states he talked with another dev about 3 to 4 weeks ago already, and then he says we will suggest it, otherwise it becomes too hard to balance influence, and having a degradation is also logical, because you do something and you gain influence, but it should be forgotten but as time passes, at least for above a limit, something like 1,000. Only problem here is kings should have way more influence than others, and if we have degradation, kings will suffer most because they have highest influence general. We need to think something, wait, I can't even. We need to think something to this, because we should not make kings have less influence than current situation. They are already less effective at game. Okay, here's my suggestion. How about if you are a ruler, you have no decay? How about that? Since you have to do the overturning of stuff, you have no decay. Since you're going to be spending the most influence out of everybody, if you are a ruler of a kingdom, you have no decay. Since you are the ruler, since you are the standing person in office, not in office, but kind of like, you know, you're that guy. You know what I mean? If somebody thinks of your kingdom, you are the face of that kingdom. So therefore, your influence will always stay up there until you are not the ruler. So how about the ruler doesn't have this decay, and then everyone else does have this decay, because everyone else isn't as important as the ruler. I think that would be the best thing to do. Or if you want to still keep the decay, how about make it, if you're a ruler, your decay happens at like 5,000 influence, so you can bank up more. I think that's the best way to do it, in my opinion. And then he says, I'll make some more detailed research tomorrow about influences, and we'll share the results. By the way, I was away from the forum for 1 week because need to spend too much time at dentist in the last 1 week because of okay, you're fine, man. No worries. Take your time. Everybody has real life to get to. You know what I mean? That's always a more important. And he says he's going to catch up things later. Cool. And then we have, I think, 2 more replies, right? Yes. All right. So first reply, we have a player saying 22 party versus 18 looters equals 2.2 influence. 1200 versus 1900 party equals 4 to 5 influence. And he says, what the heck? The current influence / renown system has to be rebalanced. No, not technically. It has to do with, it doesn't have to do with the amount of units. It has to, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this. It has to do with, well, in a way, it does have to do with how many units are fighting, but also how close you are in terms of power to your enemy. Like, if he's overpowering you by a lot, if you win that battle, you're going to gain a ton of influence. If you're overpowering him by a lot, then you will get less influence. Dev responds, well, at 1200 army, you have all your clan parties, not any other party from another clan. At the end of the battle, you see how many influence / renown your party gained. Gains of your clan party is probably not shown there, but they will be added to your clan's variables. That screen needs a development so player can see how much renown and influence you get through your clan parties at the battle. So for best results, please note somewhere your renown / influence before battle and check it afterwards. Okay, so he states obviously that's how much your party gains, but this army of yours, what's it called, has other clans that also gain, you know, renown and, well, not renown. Yes, renown, if they're part of a different clan. Renown and influence themselves. He states there should be something on the screen that kind of shows all this breakdown, and I do agree. I think more information to the player is always good. So, okay, that makes sense too. That's one thing I didn't look at as well. But, yeah, so let's say you had like 4 different clans here. In total, you probably gained 20 influence, but it was split, you know, between the clans. All right. Then we have another player and another response. So the player states, would it be possible to separate influence and renown gains from each other? At the moment, it seems they are closely tied together, with the player getting similar amounts of both no matter the battle. The situation right now is something along the lines of win 5 versus 50 equals 20 renown and 15 influence. Win 200 versus 100, 10 influence and 10 renown and 5 influence. You would not. Would you though, in a 200 versus 100, would you get 5 influence? I feel like you would get less. You would get less than this. Unless you have some perks enabled that give you more per battle. This is accurate. 5 versus 50, you probably even get it more, to be honest with you. But I think it's a good system. Am I wrong? I think it's not a bad system. Maybe. But he continues saying, what's happening here is both values are mostly being based on the impressiveness of winning the battle, overcoming the odds. If we were to separate them and reward renown for the impressiveness and influence for consistency / fighting big battles, instead it would look something like this. Win 10 versus 10, 5 renown, 1 influence. Win 5 versus 50, 25 renown, 3 influence. Win 200 versus 100, 10 renown, 25 influence. Win 200 versus 500. So you would gain more influence when you stomp them out, is what I'm seeing. Okay, this is really weird. But okay. Player states, I think this would make sense as it rewards fighting in big battles, even if you have the number advantage and won't get much renown. It also makes sense roleplay wise, as the guy going around taking on groups of 50 men by himself may be more popular, but he won't hold more influence than the Lord with 200 men in his party. That makes sense. Okay, yeah. Because influence is obviously based like of what people think of you, right? And if you have a bigger party, more people are thinking highly of you than the 4 other people in your 5-man party. Cool. But yeah, and then renown, obviously you'll be more popular. Renown kind of popularity-wise. Okay, yeah, I do agree with this. Not bad. And then Deb reply says, yes, you and Edward's points are right. However, there's already a difference between formulas of influence and renown gains. As you see below, 2 formulas have different usages of strength ratio. Renown uses uses the square root of 0.5, and influence uses the square root of 0.25. Also, as you see, 25% of influence gains are from battles and 75% are passive influence gains. Half of the passive influence comes from supporters. See influence source graphs. Okay, so you're saying most influence you're going to get is passive. 75% is going to come passively, and 25% is going to come actively from you fighting battles. Okay, cool. Got a little code over here. And he says, I will change it to the square root of 0.5 to 0.45 for Renown. So that'll be less now, okay? And 0.25, okay, so he's going to nerf both in a way. Influence gain and Renown gain will be nerfed. So Renown gain and influence gain for battles will be tied less and differ more. Interesting. Okay, so they will differ more, so they will kind of go along the lines of what he's talking about here. Okay, cool. Also, we will try to increase influence gains at battles general by making 0.6 constant. This will increase the influence gains at battles by 20%. Okay, so Renown will see some more differences, but influence gain for battles will be increased by about 20%. Okay. Also, currently there is influence inflation at the game. Here at our clan's influence is at 1086, which is the second year, 1094, which is the 10th year, and 1104, which is the 20th year. Okay. Okay, so what do we got? So main guys obviously got the most, and then everyone else is trailing behind that. Okay. What's the differences? Okay. I'm just trying to see if I can find any huge differences. Okay, obviously you see some clans have fallen, so they don't have as much influence, like the Vlandians here. But the clans that are doing well, you can see that some of them have an outrageous amount, like the Azurai. You have a clan with 8,000, which is crazy after 20 years. Looks like they're doing the best, because they're still doing pretty good. But okay. Then he says, here's the graph for average clan influences and year. Cool. Oh, okay. Much easier to read. So influence per clan, when they start is about 200. Then in 2 years is about 310. Then 10 years is about 432. And then in 20 years, about 670. Okay, so it obviously just keeps going up. There's no real deviation. It just keeps going up. Okay. And then Dev states, here is also source of passive influence income. Here, as you can see, too much passive income gained by supporters. We'll try to reduce this by 50%. We also need to make some adjustments so player can get more supporters at game. Currently, it is nearly impossible. So supporters are like nobles that like you, right? If I'm not mistaken. If I'm not completely mistaken exactly what supporters are. But yeah, they are hard to get. I'm pretty sure they need a very high reputation. And what he states is that clans have a lot more supporters. And as you can see, all the different policies, you have, yeah, pretty much all the different policies. They're kind of, you know what I mean? All down here, obviously. What is this purple line? This purple line is clan members being in the army. You have the king bonus is pretty good. And then obviously the supporter bonus is insane. It's all the way up here, and they need to obviously bring it down here. So a little bit less supporters. Okay, interesting. Very cool. So what we could tell from this is we're gonna see some changes to Renown. It's gonna differ from influence now. It's not gonna be so close to it. We're gonna see influence gain for battles by 20%. Supporters are going to be obviously a little bit nerfed for the AI, but they will try to make it easier for players to actually get them. And what else do we have? It looks like it's all about the changes, right? And the Decay might, you know, get put up for a vote amongst the devs and the decision makers, and we'll see if that passes. So cool. Some good changes. We'll still see how these work. Obviously, they're not, nothing crazy new, but at the same time, these will impact gameplay, and over time as you play a game further and further, this should, become more significant. But let me know what you guys think of it. Ask me any questions, any concerns, and like always, stay safe. Oh my bad, I hit my bottle. All right, stay safe, guys.